MMORPGs.com, and this is a top 10 video for the top 10 most popular MMORPGs in the world. Before we get started, I'm going to lay down some quick criteria for the list. We're only going to be looking at MMORPGs, so no FPS, MOBAs, or anything of that nature, just traditional MMORPGs. Also, our criteria for most popular will be registered users. It's the only statistic that's widely published throughout the world, as very few games publish their concurrent user numbers. And remember guys, this list is for the top 10 MMORPGs worldwide, with an emphasis on worldwide, as some of these games on this list may surprise you. The first game on this list, at the number 10 spot with over 75 million registered users worldwide, is Dragon Oath, called TLBB in China, which stands for Tian Lian Bu Bu, which I probably pronounced incorrectly. It's a game that launched back in 2007, and a game most Western players are probably unfamiliar with. It was developed by Chinese MMORPG studio Changyu, and was actually brought to Western markets under the name Dragon Oath, and it's actually still playable here despite having a minuscule player base. Despite never hitting it big in the US or Europe, Dragon Oath is still one of the most popular and successful games in the world. In fact, Forbes ranked it as one of the top 5 most profitable game franchises in the world back in 2009. However, despite its age, it's still Changyu's biggest moneymaker by far. Next up at the number 9 spot is Scions of Fate, called Yulgang in Asia, with over 100 million registered users. Like Dragon Oath, Scions of Fate is also available in Western markets, but never really hit it big here. It was developed by South Korean studio KRG Soft, but is most successful in China, but it has servers worldwide. The game originally launched in open beta testing in its home market in Korea back in 2004, and despite being over 10 years old, it still remains popular in Asia. I actually remember playing Scions of Fate ages ago. It's still being published in the US and worldwide by NetDragon. There is a sequel to the game called Yulgang 2, but the original game remains more popular. Moving right along, the number 8 spot goes to Chinese fantasy MMORPG ZT Online, also called Zhang 2 Online, which was originally released back in 2006. The game has over 100 million registered users, and unlike many other titles on this list, ZT Online is only available in China, so I can't ever do a first look for it. GG. Despite having not so great graphics for a 2006 released game, ZT Online and its sequel ZT Online 2 remain extremely popular in China. So much so that this franchise makes up most of the company's profits. The company behind the game is called Giant Interactive. In 2009, ZT Online had over 2 million concurrent players online at once, which is absolutely incredible. And despite its age, people still do play ZT Online. They're actually making a new version of the game called ZT Online 3D, so they're always on the ball with updating the game. Up next, at the number 7 spot, a game most viewers should be familiar with. World of Warcraft and Blizzard Entertainment clocks in at over 100 million registered users. The reason WoW doesn't make it higher on this list is likely the game's pay-to-play nature, as everything else on this list is free-to-play. World of Warcraft launched back in 2004 and peaked at around 12.5 million active subscribers back in 2012. And despite its age, World of Warcraft is still a big moneymaker for Blizzard, as it brought in over $728 million in revenues for the company in 2014 alone. I suspect many viewers expected WoW to be much higher on the list. You'll be surprised what comes next. Next up for the number 6 spot is 2D side-scrolling MMORPG MapleStory, with over 100 million registered users. In terms of registered users, MapleStory one-ups World of Warcraft by a nudge, but Playerbase does not equate to revenues. WoW earns significantly more money than MapleStory. Next on's 2D side-scrolling MMORPG is an important title for this list because it was one of the first really successful free-to-play MMORPGs in the West, and it helped popularize the free-to-play model here. Like most games on this list though, the game's core popularity lies outside of North America, with the game's player base residing largely in Asia, more specifically China and South Korea. The number 5 spot on this list goes to South Korean developed game The Legend of Mirror 3, which is over 100 million registered users worldwide. Mirror 3 is a sequel to the immensely popular Mirror 2 game and was developed by South Korean studio We Made Entertainment, and it launched back in 2004. Visually, the game doesn't look great, especially considering World of Warcraft launched around the same time, but the game thrived in China and South Korea and continues to be relevant even today. The game was made available in the US by We Made in 2009, but the US and European servers were shut down in 2012. One key reason why a lot of these older looking games did really well in Asia was the system requirements were much lower than Western developed games at the time. The number 4 spot goes to a surprising title, Dragon Nest from Identity Games, with over 200 million registered users worldwide. Dragon Nest is available in the West through Nexon. The game originally launched in South Korea back in 2010, and after great initial success, the South Korean studio that developed it was acquired by Chinese media/gaming giant Shanda Games. Dragon Nest is actually one of the newest games on this list, is actually the newest game on this list, having launched in 2010, plus a game I've actually played in the past. And as you've probably guessed, most of the game's players reside in China and the rest of Asia. Moving right along, the number 3 spot goes to a game most of us have probably heard of or even played in the past, RuneScape, which has over 200 million registered users. RuneScape is the only browser-based MMORPG to make it to this list, and is actually one of the early pioneers of the entire MMORPG genre, having originally launched back in 2001. It's also truly a global game, as it's available in dozens of local languages. It's also one of the few games on this list with the majority of its players outside of China. And despite its age, it's still one of the most popular MMORPGs today, with over 30,000 players online at almost any given time. In fact, as of this video, it's over 60,000. The number 2 spot on this list goes to a game that most of us probably are not familiar with, Fantasy Westward Journey from Chinese gaming juggernaut NetEase, which is over 300 million registered users. The game was first released in 2004, and again, for a game released in 2004, it does not really look that impressive, but again, these older looking games do really well in Asia because of the lower system requirements. Back in 2012, the game boasted a whopping 2.71 million concurrent users, and since the launch of its mobile version in 2015, the game continues to grow in popularity. In fact, since launching its mobile version, the mobile client has consistently sat in the top 10 most popular apps in the Chinese app stores. So this 310 million registered users number is probably a bit outdated now, and the number is actually much larger. And finally guys, number 1 most popular MMORPG on the world with a surprising landslide is Dungeon Fighter Online from Nexon, with over 400 million registered users worldwide. And not only is Dungeon Fighter Online incredibly popular, it's also one of the most profitable MMORPGs in the world, with over $891 million in revenue in 2014. So yes, Dungeon Fighter Online actually makes more money than World of Warcraft, and that's a fact. The game originally launched in South Korea back in 2005 and has a retro 2D look to it, and later launched in North America. But the Western version of the game never did well, so it was actually shut down by Nexon. Neopel, a subsidiary of Nexon responsible for developing the game, actually relaunched Dungeon Fighter Online for the global audience in 2015. However, despite the relaunch, most of the game's player base still is in Asia, more specifically China, where the game is called Dungeon and Fighter. DFO is so popular that it alone makes up over 60% of Nexon's revenues, as of 2014 and early 2015 that is. But yeah guys, that was a top 10 most popular MMORPGs in the world. You'll find that a lot of these games are popular because of their popularity in China, and that's because China has a pretty big player base over there, so what's popular in China ends up being the most popular in the world. Anyway guys, if you want to learn more about this list and see it for yourself, or just learn more about the games on this list, do check out the link below in the description. Anyway guys, later.